All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going on a pretty wild ride. We're going to trace the path from a chaotic flash of inspiration, one that connects cognitive science, AI, and even ancient geometry, all the way to a super structured system for personal growth. Okay, let's dive right in.
You know, it really all kicks off with this one powerful idea, this deep gut feeling that we all have this untapped potential just sitting inside of us. And this isn't just some vague, fuzzy feeling. It's a real question that started this whole exploration into how we can actually systematically unlock what's already there.
So let's rewind to that initial spark. This wasn't some neat little light bulb moment. No, this was messy. It was this brilliant explosion where all these different worlds, fields that seemed totally separate, just crashed into each other in this incredibly exciting way.
The first piece of the puzzle, right? It actually starts with our own biology. It's this idea that our DNA is packed with genes that we're not even using. It's like we have all this potential hardware coded directly into us, just waiting for the right signal to turn on.
And that idea, well, it plugs right into the brain's physical setup. You can think of it like the hardware of a computer. If your neurons aren't wired up in the right way, how can the energy for these bigger, higher-level thoughts even get through? It's a classic problem, right? You can have the most amazing software in the world, but if the hardware can't run it, you're stuck.
Okay, and then, get this, inspiration comes from a totally unexpected place. Artificial intelligence. Google's AlphaFold AI managed to solve this massive problem of how proteins fold themselves into these insanely complex 3D shapes. I mean, these proteins are the little machines that make life happen, and seeing an AI figure it out was a huge clue that even the most complex systems have a logic we can learn.
And the last piece of this initial spark, it's something called sacred geometry. Now hold on, this isn't about mysticism or anything like that. It's more of an intuition that certain fundamental shapes and patterns that we see everywhere, in nature and art, might actually be the key, the most efficient architecture for building a higher intelligence.
Okay, so we've got all these big kind of floaty ideas, right? Unexpressed genes, brain wiring, universal patterns. How in the world do you ground them? How do you make them real? Well, the key is to start speaking the language of science. This is where it all starts to click.
That feeling of thinking in higher dimensions is not some mystical concept. It's actually a pretty good description of your brain juggling a whole bunch of different relationships all at once. And guess what? Mathematicians have a name for that. They call it high-dimensional space. It's just geometry with way more coordinates.
And that whole sacred geometry thing, it turns out to be a beautiful description of the super efficient wiring inside our own brains. Seriously, these aren't random designs. Evolution figured this stuff out over millions of years because it just works. It follows the fundamental laws of physics and information theory. Turns out, efficiency is beautiful.
And this whole process of taking these big ideas and grounding them in science, it led to this absolutely massive aha moment, the kind where everything just clicks into place, and you realize there's a single universal language connecting all the dots.
And that's the bottom line. The hidden language connecting everything? It's math. It's the universal grammar that can describe protein folding, brain structure, and the flow of information. The patterns were always there. We just needed to find the right language to see them clearly.
The first pillar of this language is something called linear algebra. The best way to think about it is like the grammar for multidimensional space. It gives you all the rules for how things move, turn, and change when you've got more than just up, down, left, right, and forward, back.
Pillar number 2 is graph theory. This is the math of pure connection. It's all about how things are linked together. It doesn't care about how far apart they are, just, is this connected to that? Your brain, the internet, your social network, it's all a graph.
And the third piece of the puzzle is topology. This one's a little mind-bending. It's the math of shape, but it's looking for the properties that don't change even when you stretch or twist something completely out of its original form. It's about finding what's fundamentally, unchangeably true about a system.
So you put these three together, linear algebra, graph theory, and topology, and you get this incredible toolkit. It's not just for understanding these higher dimensions of thought, it's for actively building things in them. This is the language you need to speak complex systems fluently.
Okay, so that's the big insight. But let's be real, an insight is one thing. Turning it into a daily practice,
That's the real challenge. So let's see how this goes from a mind-blowing whoa moment to a practical, workable system that you can actually use.
This is the hard part for all of us, isn't it? You have this amazing breakthrough, this moment of pure clarity, but then what? Monday morning rolls around. How do you actually make it a part of your life, day in and day out?
Well, the answer was to build a system around these core pillars, to actively rewire the brain's hardware. You start the day with a math focus, not just to learn formulas, but to literally train your mind to think in this new language of complex systems. And then you apply that new fluency to everything else.
And the whole thing runs on this really cool 3-day rhythm. You get 2 days of super discipline, sober, deep work. That's for the heavy lifting. And then on the 3rd day, you have a planned spark session in the evening. It's a deliberate window to relax your focused mind and let those creative, cross-connecting ideas happen.
And here's what it looks like on paper. I mean, look at this. It's incredibly structured. We're talking a 5 a.m. start with that focused math study, dedicated time for business, for practice, and, this is huge, a non-negotiable daily call with family. Everything is planned, right down to a 10 p.m. bedtime to lock in the consistency. So when you boil it all down, this entire journey from that first spark to this detailed system, it's not about finding some single secret answer. It's about learning the language, the fundamental language of how complex things work. The goal is to stop just intuitively feeling the patterns around you and to start speaking them fluently with precision and power. So the real question for you is, what language do you need to learn next?